Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to episode 3 of the Revert Corner. Apologies for the late start. We had some technical issues. I was actually having a nice chat with Karl for about 15 minutes, and then we realized we were not live. So these kind of things can happen, I guess, when you're live and you are new to this format. So, anyway, we're going to jump right in. I'm joined just by Karl today. And we're talking about an important topic for many reverts, especially this time of year, which is navigating Christmas, a revert's dilemma. We're going to have just a casual chat about some of the difficulties and struggles that people may face during this time of year. Hopefully, it can be of benefit. And also, we'd like anyone who's watching to share any stories, concerns that they may have as well. So please do so in the chat. And Karl is going to start us off today with the hadith of the day because unfortunately our brother Matt is not able to make it. So, Karl, if you can start us off with the hadith of the day. Over to you, Karl.
Yeah, sure, it's a pleasure. Big shoes to fill, so I hope I do it justice. When I was thinking about which hadith to get, I actually went to my bookshelf and got this book off the bookshelf, which is it's a book by Ibn Taymiyyah. Well, actually, this is an explanation of the book by Ibn Taymiyyah called Iqtida as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, all about um, the dangers, if you like, of following the customs of non-Muslims, and those customs, of course, include festivals. And so, when I opened the book, not randomly, but clearly, I put this bookmark in a page because it was important, and it seemed to have quite a strong relevance to what we're discussing today. Um, and that was this hadith, which is a hadith recorded in Abu Dawood by Abu Dawood and by Nasa'i and Imam Ahmed. I'll try and read it directly in English rather than reading the Arabic first, just to save time. And it's the hadith which is reported by Anas bin Malik, radiallahu anhu, that he says that when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, the people of Medina had 2 days which they used to celebrate. And he asked, "What are these 2 days?" And they said, "These are days which we used to celebrate in them in the times of the pre-Islamic ignorance." So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Indeed, Allah has exchanged these days for what is better than them, the Yawm al-Adha, the day of Adha, and the day of Fitr, so the 2 days of Eid." And in explanation of some of the words that we use there, Ibn Taymiyyah says that the word used was exchanged. And so when you exchange something, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't leave the people to just celebrate those days because it's their custom, but rather said the days are exchanged. And when you the thing that's exchanged with it, or the thing that you're exchanging with, doesn't come together with the thing you're exchanging. You've exchanged it, so the old thing's gone, and so that means that the old festivals are completely gone. We don't have them and the days of Eid as well. We just have the days of Eid. It's exchanged them. It's replaced them. Sorry. So it seemed like a relevant one for the discussion of Christmas.
Excellent. Jazakallah khair, Karl. Yeah, I think
I
it's an excellent book. Has that book been translated into English?
I don't know. And this particular one I've got here is an explanation by Sheikh Al Uthaymeen as well, which really is a really nice book. Uh, like I say, it really, when I read it or when I studied it in a lesson, or a long series of lessons, so when I was in
Yeah.
Jeddah, it really like focuses you on how following non-Islamic customs can really affect your heart and get you attached to to non-Islamic ways and perhaps non-Islamic people,
Mhm.
and uh, even in the past I could have I could feel some of that creeping into like my um life, especially being here. I live in a country where, in Saudi Arabia, um, where everyone speaks Arabic. So if I heard someone speaking English, for example, all of a
Mm,
sudden, just because they speak my language, you get a connection to them. And so
yeah.
sometimes, these sort of like external customs, you can connect to someone through them, and then by connecting to someone through them externally, and then you get build a friendship, and your hearts become connected. And if that is connecting with non-Islamic people, that can have a dangerous effect on your heart, and lead you to having a strong connection to disbelief,
Mm.
potentially. So that's so I quite like this book. I don't know if it's translated. I hope it is, because it definitely has a lot of relevance for people who are living in societies which are not like, so the society that I right now have the blessing of being in.
Excellent. Yeah, alhamdulillah. It's definitely a blessing to be in a Muslim country and to live in a Muslim country, and definitely for many. Um, I think actually, to kind of go a little bit off the topic, but then bring it round.
Mm,
Sometimes for a new Muslim or a revert Muslim, particularly if he's a man and he's able to, travel easily and go to Muslim countries, I think it's a really good idea for him to go and experience Muslim countries, perhaps as well to migrate to a Muslim country, just because even as well, sometimes it could be good for the individual actually to travel away a bit away from where his friends are, or you know to kind of have a different environment where he can kind
mm,
of lose some of the ties that he had to his previous life. I think for some people that helps. Definitely for myself it did.
mm,
And I know some people, even within the UK, maybe they went to another city, especially if they were involved in lifestyles where there may have been not great things
mm.
um, in that area. But to bring it
Yeah, and
back in, sorry, no, go ahead, Joe.
yeah. Obviously, my mind went blank there for being in a different environment. Yeah, with sometimes as a revert, your own family, your non-Muslim family might tell you that you're just like this because you're a convert. Converts don't really know what it's like in real Islamic society. And
Mm,
when I was able to come to Saudi Arabia, I met people who were born Muslim, much better than me in terms of their practicing and their knowledge, and that sort of thing. So it's nice to see the practicing Muslim world, not just be isolated to what you see from in your own locality.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Mm.
And I mean, to bring it back to the topic, we were kind of discussing until we found out that we had some technical issues. That, obviously, now there may have been many people who've embraced Islam in the last 12 months. And I think actually because of the whole, genocide that's been happening in Palestine as well,
Mm,
people have actually been coming to Islam. This can be one of the wisdoms of Allah for these kind of terrible things that sometimes do happen. People
mm,
often come to the religion through researching. Even myself, I think Palestine was a big issue that I was looking into at the time when I actually came to Islam, and many of the things as a non-Muslim that I saw from the Palestinian issue,
mm,
drew me to Islam. And now many of these people who have become Muslim in 2024, this perhaps will be their first Christmas as a Muslim. And even for some people who've been Muslim for 1 year, 2 years, several years, it can be a very difficult time. And we were discussing about how now, especially, I mean, maybe if you talked about 200, 300 years ago, it would be a problem that is specific to, for example, Christian populations. But now we're in a globalized world where everyone is celebrating Christmas. Even unfortunately, some of the Muslims are celebrating Christmas. And there's this kind of idea of, commercialization of Christmas, whereby, oh, it's not really a festival that has to be about religion. It can be celebrated as some kind of a religious, non-religious festival. I'm just kind of engaging in the non-religious aspects of it. I'm not engaging in the um, religious aspects of it. And this can cause difficulties for people who actually want to maybe be in a society where Christmas is celebrated, but they want to say, I don't really want to partake in that. I think that's something that we discussed last
Mm,
time, for example, in workplace, that even sometimes maybe some people who are Muslims, it's like, oh, my friend Abdullah, he doesn't have a beard, so why do you have a beard? These kind of things. My friend Fatima, she celebrates Christmas. She gets her halal turkey from Tesco's every year, and she celebrates it. So this can kind of be very difficult. And let's dive into the topic. And
and
I think a
you
good
know, com
starting point. Yeah, go ahead.
conversely, that
Yeah,
there are many Christians who don't celebrate Christmas.
yeah.
Different, more, don't know if you call them fundamentalist groups, but there are groups that simply don't celebrate it because they see it as a non-Christian holiday and have with pagan origins.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. I mean, that, and that's the dilemma, really, isn't it? So, I mean, for me personally, I was mentioning before, that for myself, it wasn't so difficult because, as kind of, I said on previous episodes, I was kind of bold when I went, first into
Mm,
the religion, and I was very upfront with my family. I wasn't afraid to tell them, these are my beliefs. And I think, people have to do so with wisdom, have to do so with
mm,
kindness, and let people know, because obviously it's a very big family event. People are sharing, a lot of time with their families. And if we just go back to, for example, what Christmas was like for us before Islam, and then maybe talk about that transition and how we
mm,
slowly came to where we are, perhaps, and that
mm.
might be useful. So,
Yeah, I mean, what
Carl,
one
do you want
thing
to just?
before, yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, one thing before I forget is one thing that my sheikh always mentions is that when you do talk about something that's prohibited, always offer an alternative because Islam offers more halal things than there are haram things, you know. There's
Yes.
far more things that you can do in Islam than things that you can't do. And so when you are talking about these prohibited things, it's a good idea to mention, well, we got this instead, and we can do this instead. But yeah, in terms of Christmas for me, I mean, it was always a big family event. My grandmother in particular was sort of like the focal point of our family. So cousins and my parents and my aunties and uncles and even my great aunties and great uncles and we'd gather in my grandmother's house and we'd have a big dinner and it was a nice time to see family and all the Christmas crackers and that sort of thing, and the gifts and all that stuff. Actually, going to church as well was a big part of
Mm.
Christmas when I was growing up. We'd have the midnight mass, which was, if I remember rightly, was the night before Christmas, the
Oh
24th,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then we'd go to church, and I can't remember much of it now, but I remember there being candles and it being at
Mm.
midnight, but and carols, of course, singing carols. But yeah, becoming Muslim. I mean, this reminds me of you remember someone asked a couple of weeks ago about being shy.
Yes, I believe that
Yeah,
was Tommy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And one thing that occurred to me at that time was like, there's some things which, yeah, being shy is natural, but sometimes when it comes to, for example, if you have a family tradition that you go to church on Christmas Eve to sing carols, you can't really be shy. I mean, in terms of like what's obligatory for you to do, like you have to overcome your shyness and
Mm,
somehow,
mm.
get out of that really, really impermissible thing.
Yeah.
Not going to church and singing carols. So sometimes you got to overcome that shyness and with wisdom, and wisdom part of that is offering alternatives of what you can do,
Yeah.
and just be honest with what you can and what you can't do.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate now. I mean, I don't we've had our working year in schools in Saudi Arabia. Our winter breaks in January, the second week of January. So we've always working Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So, and that's
Yeah.
been my life for the last 11 years. So I've been easily getting out of it now, but definitely have a lot of
Mm,
empathy for those people who don't have that. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
What was did you have many Christmases like in the UK before you came to Saudi
At least five, I think.
as a
And
Muslim?
yeah, 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 and I think I just didn't go to my family's home, like my mother's
Yeah.
house, on Christmas Day.
Mm,
And after a couple of years, especially after I was married, I mean, she would expect that. She knows I wouldn't
yeah.
be coming on Christmas Day. But to be honest with you, it just meant that the day was shifted.
Mm,
There was still a time when the presents would be given out and that sort of thing. So
yeah.
it is a challenge. Yeah,
It could be a good
it's a difficult one.
opportunity for someone to perhaps get extra pay if there's if there is a
Yeah, yeah,
Muslim
over
or not.
time.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm working. You could
Mm.
set yourself up in a situation where um, you're getting paid more because you're working on
Yeah.
Christmas Day if you're in America or wherever you are.
Mm.
And to be honest, it's a good excuse, right, for your family. You could, oh, sorry, what can I do? I'm working today.
Mm.
I'd love to be. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that, but anyway, you know, for myself as well. I think it was obviously a family affair. My parents were divorced, so I would go to my father's family sometimes afterwards on Boxing Day, and sometimes
Mm.
be with him on Christmas Day, and then my mother as well. And just like you mentioned as well, I do remember the midnight masses. It was kind of like an all nighter thing. It was
Yeah.
yeah. To be honest, at one point, I went to a Catholic church in London, which was one of the only Catholic churches that still did the mass in Latin.
Oh, right.
Um,
Okay. That's
yeah, and
traditional.
yeah, very traditional. And I think my mum
Yeah.
just really liked it. But for
Mm.
me, in many ways, I had no idea what anyone was talking about because it was
Yeah.
all in Latin. I didn't understand
Oh,
Latin.
gosh.
But I actually spent a lot of the time reading these books that were kind of like stories of the prophets, which actually benefited me later because when I started to look into Islam, I
Mm.
actually remembered many of the stories that I had read because sometimes all these people are talking in Latin. I'm sitting there as a young
Okay.
boy, and I'm just reading stories of prophets.
Mm.
Obviously from a Christian
Christian
perspective, but
perspective. Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap there. So
Yeah, of
later
course.
on,
Yeah.
when I was looking at many of the, for example, the stories of the prophets, for example, from Ibn Kathir, there was a massive overlap. So, like, I
Yeah.
felt very familiar with all of these
Mm.
prophets. I didn't
Mm.
feel at all like they were, alien or anything. I felt
Yeah.
very like, okay, yeah, it's just a natural progression, that
Mm.
God sent this message. But regardless, for me, it was one of those situations where because I was always quite headstrong and just personality wise, I wasn't that shy of my family. So I was just kind of upfront about it and said, this is my religion. So I think, maybe the first year or so, if there was a dinner or something, you might kind of attend it and then,
Mm.
make excuses, try and get out of there or, avoid it if you can. But in general, I mean, these things can be avoided and you can kind of make excuses. I mean, it's the main eating and
Mm.
obviously there's a lot of drinking. And that's the other thing,
Yeah.
this time of year is like, there's a lot of drinking in Western culture surrounding Christmas, and obviously you don't really want to be around that as a Muslim,
Of course.
um,
Yeah.
and therefore you're kind of forced to be a little bit upfront about it, and to excuse yourself.
Mm. And so it ties in with the work thing last week, doesn't it? Or last 2 weeks ago, because even work has the secret Santas, the Christmas parties, the sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's quite common. But yeah, it is a challenge. But like that ayah we mentioned last week, that whoever does their duty to Allah, then Allah will make a way out for him. Then
Yeah,
it's for sure. I think for most people it will be either difficult, embarrassing, challenging.
yeah,
Certain challenges when the first time, but Allah will make a way out for you somehow.
yeah,
If you do your best to keep your duty to Him by avoiding
yeah.
what's haram and doing what's obligatory.
I think as well, sometimes people don't, not that they don't think about it so much, but I think it's always a good reminder that you know people should um, really make dua about these
Mm.
things for Allah to make it easy for them. And I
Yeah.
think often they'll be surprised in the way that Allah is able to do that.
Mashallah.
Allah will open doors that we didn't think were possible. And I
Yeah.
think in regards to this, I would, for example, often make dua for Allah to kind of make people understanding, or make their
Mm.
hearts softened to these kind of things, and that would often help.
Mm.
So yeah, it's definitely something to look out for. The supreme message, wa alaikum
Mm.
salam, he said, brothers, the video and audio don't sync. So a lot of technical issues tonight, but
Some lagging video. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, so we'll upload the video anyway later. Um, and hopefully it won't come out too bad, but definitely it's a difficult time. So what I was saying there was just try to make dua, try to make dua for Allah to make it easy, for Allah to guide your family, and for Allah to perhaps make your family's heart soften to your new religion, your new practices, and for
Mm.
Allah to give you wisdom so you
Mm.
deal with these things in a wise and patient way, and try to be as kind as possible. And like you were mentioning as well, Carl, you can also offer alternatives. You say, look, I don't celebrate this now, but I'm currently celebrating Eid, or these are the kind of
Mm.
things that we do instead.
Mm. And I
um
think
uh,
you also have to remember I mean, as you know, uh, many people, they either have a family already in terms of their own family, their own kids, or they're going to have them, and so then you have an obligation to take care of your own kids properly. And you know, so if you stay too shy, then you'll not stop your kids from falling into things that you don't want them to fall into either. So you have to think of not just yourself, but who you're responsible for as well.
yes, definitely, definitely. Let's we're going to hop into the kind of recent news events, but we're going to use this section as well to have a look at it's not really a direct contribution to us, but it's something that I saw on one of the Revert group um, Facebook groups that I was trying to post some of our live stream events on. So I thought it was interesting and relevant. So someone they're saying, I'm a new revert, grew up in a Christian household where Christmas was huge, really huge. Always looked incredibly forward to the festivities. It's always been my favorite type of year, or yeah, absolute favorite type of year. The Christmas music, Christmas tree, the warm, fuzzy feeling from the Christmas magic. Now I'm a revert. I feel this complete sense of dread every year when November rolls around. I try scrolling fast past the Christmas posts on my Facebook feed and seeing posts about my family members and Christian friends participating in the Christmas festivities makes my heart sink. This is my third year since reverting to Islam, and it hasn't gotten any easier. I have a wonderful, patient, kind, loving, and understanding born Muslim husband who has always told me to take my time in the religion and reassures me daily through all the sadness I feel. What I'm doing by respecting the ways of Islam will be rewarded, and though this helps in the moment, I still selfishly feel this other way. They're asking, What do other reverts make of this time of the year? I know my reasons for becoming Muslim are valid and still make complete sense, even though I feel this way, but I can't shake this awful feeling. So, to summarize, and they go on, and obviously there was a lot of comments and responses from people, but um, I think, as reverts, as Muslims, we're always going to be in this situation where we may find loneliness, or we may have some pains and sorrows that other people might not necessarily understand, or other people may understand as well. And I think at the end of the day, that the comfort is found through the remembrance of Allah, and remembering that Allah has mercifully guided you to Islam, and replaced these events, like we even mentioned with the hadith at the start of the episode, with other things, other festivals, which are very beautiful in of themselves,
Which are
like our
better.
two Eids. Yeah,
Mm,
better,
mm,
and that's also, I mean, I don't know what your take on this is, Carl, but I really, with my family, I like to try to make Eid, really special, so
mm,
that as well our Muslim families don't feel like they're missing out on something. I think it's
mm,
you know I think that sometimes, maybe in the West, or maybe some revert Muslims, we kind of just, like, maybe people just go and pray Eid Salah, and then just go and have a meal, and that's kind
mm,
of just it, you know. And there's a danger there, especially if your kids might see, like, your non-Muslim family, like, celebrating Christmas in this kind of, like, really special way. There's a
mm,
danger that they might look at that and be like, oh, it's better than Eid. So I mean,
mm.
I don't know if you have any
Yeah,
thoughts on that.
yeah, I mean, like, well, alhamdulillah, my wife does the hard work of making the Eid enjoyable for the kids. But also,
Yeah,
there's the other danger of it. You don't want them, in my opinion, you don't want to fall into competing with the glitz and glamour of Christmas.
yeah,
So for my own children, I hope, we try to connect them to the idea that, the Eid is from Islam, and, the haram nature of Christmas.
yeah,
The fact that, what it represents in terms of the Christian belief that Allah has a son, and that son died for the sins of humanity, and so to make them really opposed to those beliefs,
mm,
rather than competing. And yeah, because yeah, we do have some nice celebration of Eid, but it would be challenging to
yeah,
compete with such a commercialized
yeah,
experience, which is when you think of all the
yeah.
billions that go into celebrating Christmas,
Mm, mm, mm.
it's a big affair. But
I mean, I
yeah.
wasn't. I don't mean competing, like you're directly
Mm,
thinking, like, oh, they're doing this at Christmas, so we need an
mm,
equivalent in Eid, or something like
mm.
that. I'm just more thinking in terms of, there's creating special memories with the family,
Yeah,
special
sure. Yeah.
moments,
Mm,
having a really nice time, you know, going all out to some extent, not
mm.
all out, like, in the way of the non-Muslims, in terms of that, but um really, really trying to have a really nice time and a special time with the family. I
Mm.
think that's important.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
we're going to, actually, sorry, I think there was one point that I was going to mention as well, just quickly at the end of the news. While I was looking for news, I did see that there was a revert brother who passed away, Allah yarhamu, and he
Fine,
had
yeah.
his janaza, and this was in Preston. I saw it on the Preston Muslim Burial Society
Mm,
X account, or Twitter account. So I just thought that that was relevant to mention as a news, and that all of the listeners can make du'a for the brother. You know, of course, he may not, he may have Muslim children or, you know, a Muslim wife, but he may also have non-Muslim relatives. And I think that's a beautiful thing, that when, you know, a revert brother does pass away, that, you know, the Muslims get round and, you know, attend his janazah and make dua for him, etc. So
mm,
hopefully, inshallah, all of the people that watch this video can also make dua for him, and we can hopefully increase the dua that is made for him. So may Allah forgive him and raise his
I
rank and
mean,
give him Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen.
um,
The other bit of news is there's a video flying around. I was going to show it, but we're having a lot of technical issues, so I'll just mention it briefly. Of I think Cristiano Ronaldo, who now is playing football in Saudi Arabia. There was a kind of YouTube video with one of the big YouTubers, Mr. Beast, and he says something, and then Ronaldo's son says, you know, oh yeah, I like to play with my dad football, inshallah, inshallah. So there's a lot of conversation now. Obviously, instantly videos are flying around on the internet. Oh, is Ronaldo's son Muslim? This, that, whatever. And I think, you know, we hope that Ronaldo, may Allah guide him, and his son, may
I
Allah
mean,
guide him, also become
mm,
Muslim. But I think sometimes as well, when people are living in Saudi Arabia, you do find that many non-Muslims actually end up saying these things like, you know, subhanallah, inshallah,
yeah.
because they almost see it as like a linguistic thing.
Mm. I've definitely experienced that with colleagues. I've got plenty, not plenty, but a few non-Muslim colleagues in Saudi Arabia, and inshallah is definitely said a lot.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah, even when something good is happening,
yeah,
Alhamdulillah is said a lot by my non-Muslim colleagues, so it's quite common.
yeah.
Even I've seen in the West people using the word haram.
Yeah, I think it's even been, you know, because obviously there's a lot of Somalis as well in the West as well,
Mm,
and they say wallahi a lot. And now
okay.
obviously they're quite prominent in these fields, you know, social media and stuff. But
Mm,
that's become a thing now as well, I think, to
mm.
for young people, like when they're serious or something, to say like wallahi, like as a thing. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's obviously, you know, it can be the linguistic thing, but we hope that Cristiano becomes Muslim,
Yeah, may
and
Allah guide him. Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be
Mm.
great, because I think he's like the most followed person on social media or something like that. So
Really? Subhanallah.
yeah, I think so. I think so.
Mm,
Um, so that wraps up the news. May Allah have mercy on that brother again. Ameen.
mm.
And we're gonna go quickly into a quick fire
And
round.
and just returning to that sister's story,
Yes.
I mean, she mentioned feeling sad, and Jannah is surrounded by things that are difficult, and
Mm,
but she also mentioned about feeling sad when she scrolls through the Facebook, and sometimes we can do something to keep ourselves away from the situations that make us sad and make us think about things that are not permissible, perhaps. I mean, you mentioned about even moving to a different city, isn't it? Like that, and that is, we think of the man who killed 99 and then completed and killed 100. He moved from the place where he was, where there was evil, and went to go to a place where there were good people. So, perhaps staying
yeah.
away from, even looking at the things which are going to make your heart yearn for it, then
Yeah.
would help. Mm,
Definitely. And actually, on that, there was a snippet of a podcast. I think it was Joe Rogan, where
mm,
one of these, I think like psychologists or something like this, was saying that one of the biggest causes, and don't quote me at this, but it was something
mm,
along the lines of one of the biggest causes of depression
mm,
was dwelling on the negative thoughts, you
mm,
know. So a lot of
mm,
time people kind of like fall into this spiral whereby they're sad because they see something, then they
mm.
think about it more, which makes them more sad, and then they think about it even more, and they kind of get stuck in this kind of
Yeah, sure.
cycle of just
Yeah.
thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And if that is you know, done consistently, it will, you know, put you in a depressed state of mind. You'll feel sad, all these kind of things. And I think there was another clip that I watched recently that someone had translated, I think, of Sheikh Saleh al Sheikh, and he was
mm,
discussing about how being an optimist and having a
mm,
positive mindset, this is something that a Muslim should be doing, and
mm,
to ahsna dhan billah, to have, good suspicions of Allah and good thoughts of
yeah.
Allah. And that, you make a dua and you have good suspicion that Allah has accepted this dua.
Sure.
You do these things and you have good suspicion that it is accepted by Allah, and that,
Mm,
Allah is going to reward you for these things. So I think that's also can help people to kind of get out of that and get into a more positive mindset. And like you said, try to get your mind away from these things. Maybe if
mm,
this is getting your mind kind of stuck on it, don't go on this Facebook application. Maybe if this is happening and you know that you'll whatever, read a book about something else that will get you thinking about something else, or put on a podcast or a lecture or any of these kind of things, or maybe go to the gym, go for a run, go for a jog.
mm.
So yeah. So
Oh, word
Karl,
association.
we are, yes. So, yeah, we're gonna go to the word association. Sorry, man.
I always
Tonight
do
has
this
been
terribly. I'm
full
gonna
of
pledge to do it better this time.
yeah, but now I'll give you the opportunity, because it's just me and you. I'll give you the opportunity to fire a word back at me if you have one, if you
Oh,
want. If not, don't worry. I will prefer it.
what a
But
Christmassy word?
it's up to you. I will go first, and
Yeah,
I will say um I will say duh, 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 I will say family,
family, close companions.
close companions. Excellent.
Yeah.
What about Tawheed?
Tawheed, enter Jannah.
Into Jannah. Excellent. What about Boxing Day?
Boxing Day, sales.
Sales. What about this in terms of, that's a question that often comes up, is Muslims saying, oh, this sale is happening, or this, that, whatever. Can I go and purchase cheap TVs on Boxing Day? I think that's one that often comes up. I mean,
Uh,
I guess, if you're not engaging in it. Um, let's think of the last one, right? Um, Parents.
parents. Uh, yeah, subhanAllah, it's the when you think of Birrul Walidain, I know it's one word, quick fire things, but
Yeah,
Birrul Walidain, being good to parents, the massive reward and the massive obligation of doing it, and the huge uh, um, major sin of being disrespectful for parents.
yeah,
Uh, I can't think of one word to associate with parents. They have a
yeah,
big obligation for us to treat them well. And at this time, it is a challenge, when you um deal with something which is a challenging behavior from your own parents, because if they want you to do something haram, to keep that in that box. Okay, you're going to disobey them in that haram thing,
yeah,
but around that is that they still have to be treated well and not be disrespected, and that sometimes your emotions, because you were hurt in that one area, can spread to making you do something very bad in terms of disrespecting your parents in other areas. But it's
yeah.
yeah, parents are a huge thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
So, yeah, I was a bit unprepared today. I think I was thrown off by a lot of the technical issues. But generally speaking, I think we had some fruitful conversation there. Hopefully, I'll be able to sort out any technical issues before the next episode,
Mm.
which is going to be on the topic, of I've done my shahada, now what? So this is what
Mm.
we will cover, maybe for the next episode, or maybe we'll do it in a couple of episodes. And I'm hoping as well that we will have some different guests as well to join us. So we'll try to organize that as well. And so, other than that, we look forward to that in 2 weeks' time. Apologies once again to everyone for the technical issues. Thank you for tuning in, Max, who was waiting at the beginning when we were talking and we weren't streaming. Thank you to Supreme Message, Abdullah Luxi, and anyone else who was tuned in. We really appreciate it. Jazakumullah khair. And hopefully in a couple of weeks we will be live again with myself. Hopefully Matt will be back and maybe a guest or two. Any final thoughts on the topic there to close the evening, Karl?
Final thoughts. Do your duty to Allah and Allah will make it easy.
Definitely. And you know, as well, the you know, the hadith is it that you know, if you replace something for the sake of Allah, that Allah will give you something better. And you know, I've seen this myself as a revert in my own life, and I've seen it in countless other reverts' lives. So that is something that I think really people, when they just take that plunge and they just say, you know what, I'm going to do this to get closer to Allah, you know, they find that, you know, Allah enriches their life in many ways, which is you know, the beauty of you know, going to Allah, and you know, Allah will run to you. So alhamdulillah for Islam. Thank once again, Karl, and we'll see each other again in 2 weeks, inshallah.
We will indeed. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you and good night. Assalamu alaikum.